I'm gonna ask Sue to come up here. Sue Yannaccone. I know I kind of gave her a little bit of an intro prior to the break, but just an awesome leader, somebody that I've had the opportunity to work with hand in hand on many different projects and in different roles that I've had. And it's an honor to have you here, first of all. And we're going to do, a fireside chat. I'm going to ask you a series of different questions. And then if you want, we can do questions at the end, depending on time. And I appreciate it.
Perfect. Is this on? Yes. So I don't need this.
For the recording. That one is for.
Oh, I'm not going to. Am I going to squeak if I do that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
We'll test it out.
No, you're good. I'm good.
All right.
Thank you. How are the babies?
The babies it's progressively sick day by day, so it's been fun. So in my house we have an infant, and I'm the hospital ward, so that's fun. And it's been one day after the next one's getting sick of the other three. So
are you like every other household in America where you stay healthy and your wife also gets sick?
She's actually healthy, so thank God. But
in my house, I get sick, and Jeff's just like, whatever, I'm going golfing.
I have to have superhuman strength on the immunity front because I'm just exposed to all of it. No worries. So I want to start with something that is just, all humans go through it. You moved recently.
I did.
So I would love to start there because with all your experience in real estate, obviously it's different going through it, no?
Yeah, and I did joke with my lovely Catherine that she was going to fire me at some point in time because I don't sell real estate, right? I don't do this every day, and I go through all of the emotions that every other buyer and seller go through. And we started looking during the pandemic. So I was that person, along with half of America that was like, I think we should move because I don't like my house. Now that we've been in it, I'm in it, right? Because I, for 10 years, hadn't really been home, and now I was home. And, I'll tell a funny story that we ended up in a beautiful home and we're very happy with it. And our house sold rapid fire. It was amazing. Yes. And I'm like, everyone's like, why are they moving? And I'm like, my husband's like, yes, well, why are we moving? But it was, we were sitting in the parking lot. And part of the reason we moved my daughter's school, and we were now driving 40 minutes a day there and back to Pitt, and it was just too much, untenable. I couldn't handle that. He couldn't handle that. So we needed to move. But we were sitting in the parking lot of our school, and we were under contract, and we were going through the inspections, and he's on the phone with, I don't know, a contractor or somebody. I'm on the phone maybe with my realtor, and we hang up, and I'm on with the attorney, and he looks at me and he goes, oh my God, can you not fix this? And I said, what do you mean? I'm like, and he's like, this is so complicated, right? And it's I'm like, but it is, even with all the best support in the world and the most amazing team working with us and knowing what I know, it still is that human emotion when you're going through it. And it was a lot. And we went through all of the, I want this, I don't want this, you want this, I don't care about that. What about, and I think at the end he was just like, whatever you want, which worked out really, really well for me. But it's a lot. And I think it informs a lot when we talk about some of the strategy stuff, if we get into it, and some of the things we're looking at and trying to fix, hence the reason he looked at me like, can't you literally fix this, is because of the complexity. And it's what you guys go through every single day. And I can't even imagine going through it in a circumstance where it was, moving not because we wanted to or because there was a law. The emotion is just untenable, and anything we can do as a company to help provide tools and systems to ease some of that burden for all of you is what we think is really important for us, because your role as the realtor, as the trusted advisor, as the guide, as the Sherpa through the process has so much to deal with that it is, it's amazing. But we're getting settled-ish. It's been 2 months. Yeah, it's been 2 months, but we started 2.5 years ago.
All right. So you brought up your family.
Yes.
Sammy, your daughter.
Yes.
So anybody who knows anything about you knows how important being a mom is to you and to your world. And it's so apparent on everything you post on social media and everything else. And yet, here you stand as one of the most powerful people in the world of real estate. I mean, you've worked your way up this chain, so to speak, and you've done some incredible things in your career. So explain to me what that looks like on just a human level of just like marrying your mom life with also your real estate world.
You marry the funny jewelry together that your daughter makes you is what you do, and I got strings hanging. But I think part of maybe why I've been able to do it is because of the industry that we're in, because it is such a relationship and a industry built on like sort of human relations and emotions. So I've been able to, as an executive, bring my whole self to work. And I encourage everybody that works with me, for me, on the team to do the same. It's a hard thing to balance, and so I will say, and not everybody understands this when I say it, but I don't have balance in my life, and I don't strive for balance in my life. I strive for happiness, and I strive for, like the home life being really good, and then give and take everywhere else. There are days at which I am way more Sue, the CEO, than I am mom. And that's just the reality, and that's some of the sacrifice I've chosen to make. But I make sure that she has dad and she has grandma, and I'm fortunate, and whether it be partners or spouses or friends or family, she has a village. But I also have days when I'm totally mom. And you will not get me. I have to go all in on that, and that's probably not enough in her mind. But I also have started engaging her a lot more, right? And I don't mean just like her looking for the house we were going to buy, because she was very involved in the home buying purchase. She has really good taste. She's going to need a good job. But she, I brought her to an event recently, because I want her to see that I'm involved in something I love, and that I don't leave her for, or give all this time to something that doesn't mean a lot and give me a lot. And that it's not like, oh, I hate going to work, right? And I have to leave you, sorry, but I hate it. It's like, no, mommy loves this, and I get to impact people, and that's amazing. And so I brought her with me. I started bringing her to things with me. And there's not a lot of industries that I think you can do that. Like I go to the T360 and I'm speaking with all of these folks at Stefan Swanepoel's event, and there's Sammy in the front row, and she's coming, and people are like, oh my God, Sammy. That's amazing to me. And so I do look to strive for a place of happiness and contentment that I don't feel I'm dropping the ball anywhere. And I'm fortunate enough to work for an amazing company that really supports that and really supports, hey, I got to go. I've got this, and I don't have to make excuses. So it's hard, but and I'll tell a quick story, not that, we'll get onto real stuff in a minute, but when she's 12, and when she was 11 months old, I was offered a job. I wasn't with this company. I was with a competitor, and I was launching a brand, and I was offered a job in California. And I was like, they're like, you're gonna have to move. And I'm like, I'm not moving to California. I'm a Jersey girl for number one, but I'm not going to California because my mom is my daycare. And my husband, by the way, has a job, and our family's here, and his parents are here, and we're not, we're not doing that. And I commuted for 4 years to California when my daughter was 1. I would get up on Mondays, and I'd come home on Thursdays, and I would do it every other week. And so I sacrificed a lot, and I will say I'm not sure I would do it again. I'm not sure I would have to do it again. I think in today's day and age, in this business, but that was 8 years ago, 10 years ago, you had to. Pre-COVID. So I think it's being willing to make those sacrifices, but doing so through the lens of the voice that matters, which is mine and my husband's, and now my kids. I
think of the two examples that come to mind are Rob Norman and Lindsay back there. Both of them grew up in a real estate office. And, I hear so many experiences. We had Rob come up and speak, I think it was a couple months ago, and, just speak about, his experience growing up in real estate, and obviously Lindsay with Sherry and Susan. It really is, for all of those of you who have, children that you bring into the workplace, it's through osmosis they learn. There's no question about it. So it's very cool that you do that.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah. It's fun. They get to see what we do.
So I'm going to pivot to an initiative that you launched a couple of years ago, or I should say in 2020. Yeah. So the What Moves Her initiative, and it's really for those of you who are not familiar with it, it's all about women empowerment and female empowerment, and making sure that we create strong female leaders in our industry. And I got to tell you, the man in me still loves it, because the reality is it's not just about women. It is about women, obviously, but I also think it's just about leadership as a whole. And it's pretty cool what you've put together, so thank you for that. But I'm just curious, like, can you speak to that experience and maybe what's coming for What Moves Her?
Sure, and I'm staring at you over here. You were at the first launch in Chicago in 2020, Andrea over there. So I was working for somebody you guys might know, Ryan Gorman. And he said to me, he's like, you need a thing. And I was like, Ryan, I feel like I have a thing, right? I got a lot on my plate. And he's like, no, you got something to give back, in classic sort of Gorman-esque style, right? And I said, okay, what? And I sat down with Tanya Rue, who's our head of HR, and I sat down with some other folks, and we started talking about it. And I said, I think there's a place to elevate the voice of women in this industry. And feels ironic because when I look around the room, like it's like a lot of women in the room, right? And this industry is close to 70% women, and powerful women that are running offices and brokerages and teams and CEOs of their own business, and that's unbelievable. What I realized is I, in my role on corporate America-ish, had never worked for a woman. Literally all the way up in this industry of all of these powerful, successful women had never worked for a woman. And I thought, well, that's bizarre. And I thought, thankfully I had amazing, male mentors and leaders who put me at the table before I was ready, that, take your seat at the table kind of thing. Like they were like, get up there. I was like, okay. But I started thinking about what events I went to and who I was listening to speak and whose voice we were all hearing and what the archetype of leadership I was coming up under in the industry. And I thought, I want to change that, because I think it would have been easier for me had I sat around and looked at more people like me, or like you, or like you, different people and different voices. So while it's What Moves Her and it's focused on women in leadership, it's a couple things. It's really focused on diverse voices in the room, whether that be from a skill set, from an accomplishment level, whether it be a team leader, whether it be a manager, because everybody has achieved success at some point in time, and I don't think your title defines that. And I think that we need to realize that there's stuff to learn from everyone, not just the folks we had listened to forever. I think there was a strong need to, and I didn't realize how strong a need there was, let's be totally clear. And I wasn't very comfortable putting myself out there. And I was like, nobody's gonna fall. Like, what is this we're doing? And then I said, let's open it to the whole industry. And let's not charge anything for it. Because this is a community and we all raise each other up. And I don't wanna be, it feels very anti-inclusionary if I start charging and say, you can't come. Like that feels backwards. So we had our first event in Chicago, and it was standing room only, sold out, unbelievable. I spoke for 15 minutes, but I brought up our office managers from Coldwell Banker, and I brought up people that had never been asked to speak on stage, but had been in the business for 30 years, 40. They knew more than I did, right? But nobody was listening, and so it grew from that. And now we have over 5,000 women, probably up to 6,000 women that are part of this community. It has expanded to, I just did a thing at Florida Women in Business because one of my affiliates at ERA, his daughter is in the graduate school down in Florida, and they have a women's network, and they wanted to hear from successful women. So 7:30 one night, I got on the phone and I did a Zoom meeting with them. I'm doing something with, through our relocation company, one of our guys, one of our leaders, there's a new superintendent of schools, and it's in a a developing area that isn't well funded, and they don't have a lot of leaders that are women or people that have achieved things. And I said, let's get together. Let's figure out how to elevate in your market, how to bring the voice of other successful people to that. And so it's so much more now. So those are some of the things we're working on, and I brought in speakers like Dominique Dawes has come in, and which, by the way, many of us, like I knew who. I was surprised at how many people were like, who's Dominique Dawes? I'm like, I have hit the millennials. And then I got her to come and speak at an event, and we got to meet her, and so it's really been an interesting journey, and it also is celebrating the power that women have and leaders. It's not just for women, as you said. No matter what stage they are at, no matter where they sit, how to own that, how to develop your own sense of leadership style, whether you're, an individual agent, you're running your own business or whatnot. So it's been amazing. And again, the company is like, go do it, whatever you need, have fun. Like, it's crazy.
The leader in me, I think that the other thing that's highlighted from all this is the layers that we have within our company from an education and motivation standpoint. And I think that that's definitely been, one of the spotlights that you've brought. So I appreciate that. We had the pleasure last month of having Pennisi come, and she did an outstanding job. So it was really, I was happy to have her and introduce her to to this crowd formally. And clearly you're a decision maker in the company, and you played a pivotal role in hiring her. So we'd love to hear from your perspective, like what went into that hiring decision, why Pennisi, and we've seen it firsthand, but I'd love to hear kind of what you were looking for and what you feel is important in that role moving forward.
Sure. So I'm so glad that she got to be here, right? And I think that what's really important when you're making a leadership decision and trying to, you're never replacing someone, and you're never replacing a leader or looking to replicate. You have to look at where the business is today and what the business needs for tomorrow, and give the opportunity to think differently about, right? And I think when you have the opportunity to step back, to take some time, like I did. Anybody that works with me knows I take my time in making leadership decisions. They are big decisions. I take the decision-making component very seriously, because I do feel the weight sitting in my seat of the decisions that I make across hundreds of thousands of people, right? And so that'll keep you up at night. For me, it was, and I was part of hiring Pennisi into the Sotheby's International Realty brand as the leader of their brokerage business. So I've had experience with Pennisi. And she is an incredible intellect. Her brain is like, I'm like, oh, I went to Clemson, so I don't know if I get what you're talking about. I'm kidding. But she is so strategic. She's so astute. She brings to the role something very different, which is this intersection of strategic thinking, brokerage experience, having now been with 3 very large brokerages within the industry and leading through that, maybe 4, this luxury lens, which is really huge, from the digital marketing space, from product creation, brand creation and strategy, and then technology. And how she can bring that together in her mind and think long term about the strategic vision of the company is super impressive. And I get to witness that sort of every day. But what's amazing too is the way in which she leads is the empowerment of her leaders. Like, she's going to look to Rob to really understand this market, and to you, and to the folks that run every day here, and then get that view and pull it together for what you need in your marketplace. And so I wasn't looking for somebody that was, the in the weeds, every single market dynamic expert. I need an intellectual individual that can think strategically, that can pull together all of the facets of what's changing in our industry, what's changing on the consumer lane, and what they need from a marketing perspective, and then be able to help execute that in the local market in the way that makes sense. Because ultimately, one thing I feel very strongly about is every market is different, right? There is not a peanut butter approach to this business that is going to help everybody succeed. And that is where we look to have the strongest leaders in market, like Rob and the management team and your marketing leaders and all of the team, to help inform up to a very strong strategic listener that can then pull the levers to deliver on what's needed everywhere. And so, I applaud her coming and being here. I'm sure there are things that maybe people are like, well, why couldn't she answer that?
5 weeks in.
She's 5 weeks into the job, and I've asked her to take some very, very hard looks at the local lens, at the strategy, and then come, listen, just go listen, find out where we're at, what people need. We're in a really good place. How do we build on that? How do we build on the amazing momentum for the next iteration of this and keep us moving forward? Because there's been a lot of hard work and good work done on this within Coldwell Banker Realty for years, and we want to continue moving forward with that. So I am very excited about what she brings to the table.
Yeah, on a personal level, we had the brokers open, and she came and spoke to all the agents, and then afterwards we had Rob had a huddle with all the managers, and she came and spoke to the managers, and there were obviously different conversations that came up in both of those discussions, but I was impressed. I mean, there's no question that, especially in the manager version of it, there were some loaded questions that came up, and I thought that she knocked it out of the park. No question. So for the purpose of this next question, I'm actually going to read this because I want to make sure I do you justice here. And for those of you who see me looking at my phone, here are the questions, so I'm not just taking calls. So
I should have brought the answers up.
So this is according to LinkedIn. You've held 10 positions since your start in real estate, from GMAC to Real Living, Brookfield to HSF. You were COO and CEO of ERA. You joined the Coldwell Banker family in 2018 as Executive Vice President. You were named President and CEO of Realty Franchise Group in 2020, and now you're President and CEO of Anywhere Brands and Advisors. So I think too many people look to success as an elevator going up. My question to you is, can you talk to us about your journey and lessons that you've learned along the way? Because you clearly have held many positions and worn many hats in this industry.
What that left off is I started as a licensed agent.
Yeah,
I did.
You should update your LinkedIn.
I should update my LinkedIn. It was very long. I don't think they let you go back that far in LinkedIn anymore. But I was licensed as an agent, and I did mainly commercial real estate. And I was okay at it, but I didn't have a passion for it. And so I came over to the corporate side because I do firmly believe you have to have you guys know this, that's preaching to the choir. If you're not passionate about what you're doing, you're not in this business. You're not doing what you do every day. And I found that I had a skill to be able to help get things done on this side to help support what you're doing. And part of that is because I kept the lens of a salesperson in my head the whole time. And I'm married to somebody who's in sales, and my brother's in the business. So it's sort of like I keep this sort of what's going on in my head all the time. No, there's no straight line to success, like by any stretch. I did have the opportunity. I'm somewhere along the way became very fearless, and I just said, okay, like I'll go do that. And
Mamba mentality.
Huh?
You missed the last presentation.
Oh, I did.
Slipping that in, giving Irv a little heads up.
Oh, okay. So a little bit of like, yeah, I can do that, or I'll do that. And then there was, I was constantly the person, I mentioned it before, I still am. I feel a significant responsibility and weight on my shoulders when I take on a role or I have an obligation. I never look at it as like, wow, thanks. I'm like, okay, oh my God, like I gotta deliver for these people, whether it be my boss, whether it be the stakeholders, whatever it is. I have an intense fear of failure. Truthfully, like I am petrified of failing, which is ludicrous because like it's okay, right? And like you fail, you get up, you learn, and I teach my daughter that lesson, and I've done it too, but it has kept me, and I get bored. So I'm always striving to do something else. I'm always looking for like what more. But there were many opportunities that I was given that I was like, why, that feels lateral. Like that's not this, that's this. But man, what I learned from it, and I will say, so I took a lot of risks. I said yes to pretty much every opportunity. Somewhere around CEO of ERA, I decided I should start taking control of my next steps. It really just sort of happened and was part of a lot of acquisitions, a lot of mergers, all of that sort of fun stuff. And I'll tell you, the role when I came to be EVP of CBR, I was petrified because I had been in this business on the franchise side for 18 years, but I had never been on the brokerage side. And the company was very strategic in telling me they wanted me in this job. And it was the one move that I almost said, nah, I'm not going to do that. And I'd never said no. And it was like, because it was so outside of my comfort zone. And I know there's some people in here that got to work with me during that time who were like, yeah, it certainly was out of your comfort zone. But you were all amazing. And I thank you for sort of learning me through it. But it was, in hindsight, taking that risk and stepping out of my comfort zone and expanding myself and realizing that at whatever age I was, I could learn something entirely new or a different approach to how I was doing something was the best thing I ever did because there's no way I'd be sitting in this seat. because it allowed me to, come back into this role with the experience of working with our customer's customer on the franchise side, to understand the business in a very, like a boots on the ground, sitting with Jerry and sitting with, Robin and the manager, sitting with you and understanding fundamentally. So it has not all, and it's not all been wins. I mean, I've made some decisions that are just, good Lord, but you learn from them, and you move on, and you do the right thing with the decisions, and you make the right decisions with the information you have at the time. You think through who you are making the decisions, who you're, I think about my employees, I think about all of you, I think about my customers, and I do what I can with what I have. And I go to bed at night pretty easily because of that, and it's tough, but it's also a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
I mean, I'm going to go off script for a second, but one of the things that I think back on and just my experience working with you was Company of the Future. Mm-hmm. And basically a quick rundown is our company from a strategy perspective looks at this and says, here's where we are today. Who do we want to be 5 years from now? Like, what are we trying to what company are we trying to build? What company are we trying to, not only from a branding perspective, think to the public, but also internal with our employees, with all of the agents, obviously. What value proposition do we bring? And I got to work hand in hand with Sue, and one of the things, and it was around the time, I don't remember exactly what role you were in, you might have been an EVP, somewhere in that time period, but I think that the interesting part is you speak to not having that brokerage experience, residential, that you felt a little bit behind. Well, I do have that residential brokerage experience, and it was an eye-opening experience for me even. And I think that one of the things that I took away from working with you in that context was your willingness to learn. And you're very open-minded to listening to, what everybody in the room has to say, and they were trying to get the best and brightest leaders in different positions. And I got to say, that encouraged everybody else to feel the same way. So it was definitely appreciated.
Oh, well, thanks.
You're welcome. All right, so now that I said nice stuff, I'm going to go to the loaded questions. Not so much. This is, we're all witnessing what's going on in the market. Mm-hmm. Obviously the Fed has made some strategic changes on interest rates. In raising them, and that's pulled the market back in terms of units and volume, and it's an industry-wide issue. Every brokerage deals with the exact same thing, and it's interesting to see what different brokerages are doing to tackle that challenge. And I don't know, for those of you who have been paying attention, we've had some pretty big changes in our company. This past week, one of the things that I've been doing is I closed, one of the Maplewood offices. We had two offices down the street from one another. We closed one of them. In the past couple of weeks, we merged our two most powerful offices to create an absolute powerhouse in Westfield, a regional center in Westfield, and that was a big move. I mean, we have those are our two most productive offices in New Jersey, and we aligned them together. Which John and George are here, and I know some of the biggest producers in the marketplace are here, and you guys did an amazing job with that. I've heard nothing but positivity coming out of it. But that was a bold move, and that was something that for years was a sacred, you never touch those two offices.
We're all laughing because when I was at EVP, I was like, do you think we should? No. I'm like, okay, got it. Check. See, I do listen to my team, but
yeah. But so I'm, big picture, we're seeing these changes, and I would love for you. I think as managers, we field these questions a lot from agents like, well, what are we doing? What's next? And all of that. Would love to hear it straight from you so they can get a feel for where your vision is.
Yeah. So first of all, I do applaud you guys, and I thank the whole team on that office consolidation, because it truly is. I don't even like the word consolidation, because it's bringing together just unbelievable power in the marketplace. And the strength that comes from that is unreal. And I do thank both, John and George and the team and everyone for leading through that. And of course, Frank and the other agents from there that have stood we got this, right? And I think that comes from trust. It comes from a lot of trust in the company and what we're doing and why we're doing it. And then we do things the way I said, with the best interest of folks at hand. So I do. But look, I mean, the reality is the industry and the market are changing. And we've all talked forever about the change that's happening in the industry. We talk a lot about technology. Okay. Part of the reason why we've talked about it for 20 years and not a lot has happened in that scheme is because, one, the technology hasn't really been where we need it to be to deliver services in a true, meaningful way at scale, the way it is today, right? The other area is, and I'll get to how that impacts kind of the offices and how we're thinking strategically about the consumer and all of that. But the other piece is the consumer. And what has happened truly accelerated through COVID to what the consumer expects when dealing with people, when dealing with people providing services, when dealing with people and really in any way, shape, or form consuming anything. And I think I look at it, and for years have been challenging, office of the future, what is this going to go? It's my job to think about where we're going to be in 5, 7 years, even 2 or 3 years from now. To inform that thinking from all of you, right? And from you and from the team and what's going on in the market. But I'm looking at the 30,000 foot level, probably a 50,000 foot level, and I'm looking at consumers not just in our industry. I'm looking at consumers in every industry. I'm looking at companies that are succeeding in capturing the consumer's share in a very different way than we have before. And a lot of what we are doing is to ensure that we are setting ourselves up to capture that future consumer. We still are capturing the consumer today. I look at it a little bit of like building for this while bridging here, right? And I've got to have my mind on two things. I have to ensure that we're given to all of you, both agents and managers, what you need to be successful today. But I also need to think about, okay, where do I need to invest and strategically think to be there when things change? And there's 2 examples that I'll give that may or may not wholly resonate. These are not like literal, so please kind of bear with me a little bit. But one is when you think about consumers and things such as online banking or digital banking. Think about Venmo. Think about Zelle. So you don't have to raise your hand, but I can tell you in our household, one of us uses them and one of us thinks it's insane and will never touch it. And guess what? We can still bank and we can still get things done in the way that works for both of us, right? Now, the only time my husband has contemplated using it is because he was on the golf course and everybody was paying their bets out via Venmo. And he's like, how do I do that? I'm like, well, you get the money because he wins. And I'm like, you might want to get Venmo. You want to come along with the youngins you play golf with, right? But truthfully, we talk about Anywhere, and we made the switch to the name Anywhere. And I know everyone's like, what in the world? Like, what? Because we want to be the company that meets that consumer anywhere they are on that digital transaction journey, on that digital transformation. We can still serve every single consumer that wants to walk in and sit in an office to deal with, to get the, like my parents, not even my parents, I wanted paperwork. I want to read, not everyone does, right? We need to be able to service all of those. It doesn't mean you individually need to serve everybody in that way, shape, or form. But as a company, I have to think about how we do that, how we invest in capturing that consumer of the future. Where do we need to be? Where are consumers going to find information today, right? Where do they want to transact business? The other example I think about is banking. So not like actual, like how do I pay for stuff, but bank branches, right? I haven't gone into a bank branch in 10 years until COVID. Some of you have heard this story. I decided to do a will. Yes, I have a 12-year-old and I decided to finally do a will. And I had to go get it notarized.
My wife is killing me on this point.
Well, I'll call her because it's painful, but it's necessary. Do it. It's very important, especially if you live in New Jersey. I learned a lot. Do it. Yeah, whoever else is saying do it, can we make sure that Mike gets his will done, please?
I will do it.
Thank you. But it was what I needed from, the experience I needed in that physical location was different than what I needed in that location 10 or 15 years ago. I still needed it. I still needed the person that was in the bank servicing me, and I still got value from the interaction, right? But it wasn't to get money out or cash a check. It was to get a different service. And I think when I look at even our office space, what do we need it to do for you and what do we need it to do for the consumer in the future, and how do we evolve the services this is not overnight. This is not like I'm going to snap my fingers and we're going to do all. It is a journey, but I promise you, we're one of the only companies in the industry that can do what we're thinking about doing. How do we integrate more of that business for the consumer? We're the only ones really thinking about it in that space. So of course it means change, but to me, it's about modernizing who we are and how we deliver what we do without losing the culture and what makes us so amazing, because there is a reason we are the best in the business. And Coldwell Banker Realty is amazing with a rich history and support and tools and systems. But the only way you keep moving forward is by evolving and thinking things differently. And I value the feedback in the team, and trust me, the team gives me feedback.
I'm aware.
Yeah, you guys know this group.
So we'll give a follow-up question to that. I think that one of the things that I've witnessed in the 20 years I've been in real estate almost, and most of that with Coldwell Banker, is we're always trying to improve day by day and move in a positive direction, be better than we were yesterday, value proposition-wise and everything else. What excites you about what we have coming up? Is there anything that you could speak to that is noteworthy? And I know we're a publicly traded company, so only where you can, but I'm just curious what excites you about the future.
Yeah, it's kind of everything, right? And part of that is because I am somebody who's so comfortable in the change space. And it's not that there's like wholesale massive, but I am excited about innovating our business. I love this business. I wouldn't be doing it for my entire life like many of you wouldn't if you didn't love what we do. I'm excited about the thinking that we're spending and the time to think about how to help you do more of what you do more easily, more efficiently. Now that means change for everyone a little bit, but it is exciting because the technology is there today. It wasn't there 10 years ago when we started talking about it. And technology will never replace any human in this room and what you do for your customer. I firmly believe that. You are going to be belly to belly at that kitchen table, having those conversations, doing all of that. But the ability to enable you to get information more quickly, for us to provide data and insights on what's going on to help you serve that customer better than the guy who's coming in over there pitching the listing that doesn't have a company like ours backing you and thinking about what does that customer need to hear. How do I generate more leads for you based on consumer insights that is so exciting to me. I don't want everybody else to get distracted with it though, because we got to go do. So I'm excited about that. I think I'm excited about watching the market change. I like seeing, the past, I don't need to, you guys know, it has been, just crazy. But then I think about isn't every market a little crazy? There's always a market. We're selling whether we're up or down. We're focusing on one thing or another. I'm excited to see this next generation of agents that may have been with us for less than 5 years learn this business in a very different way, right? How do you do a price adjustment? How do you do, think how many people are in, yes. But it's this knowledge that we have from being the experts that we can share with this next generation to build it up and to continue to build. I'm excited about seeing a market a little more normalized, if that is. But how do we evolve in that? And how do we, me and everyone sitting in my seats, learn from the past 2 years about what we need to do better and differently? So I get excited about the future, which I think a lot of people worry about the future, right? And I think we worry about the boogeyman around the corner, and we worry about what's going to come. No, all right, let's go. That to me is exciting.
I think that one thing that separates us from many of our competitors is we've been through up and down cycles.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal. I mean, when you're talking about having never been through it before, I mean, that plays a pivotal role in your experience level and how comfortable you're going to be related to it.
Yeah, it is. It's funny when you hear a lot about the incumbent. We're the big. There's no better place to be than with a company and organization and colleagues and managers and leaders that have seen this movie before. Now the characters are different, the pace of change, these things, the macroeconomic is different, of course. I think, we have different things with interest rates. I mean, think about the impact of interest rate. I think the interest rate changes and the fluctuations are what's causing the most angst. If we could stabilize our interest rates a little bit, then you can get your consumers a little bit calm and they can make some more decisions, because 6%, it's not really that high, right? I mean, I know some of us remember 18 or, like whatever, it's not 2, but okay. But look, some of us still sold our house that had a 2.5% and bought at 5.5, right? I mean, there are still people that need to move. So there is that education and that knowledge of how to do transactions that we have, that you have, that so many of our competitors do not have. They truly don't. They don't have the specialized skills that have gone through this, that know how to do, how do you get financing in a crazy time? Well, you might got to think a little bit differently. You've got it, does your loan officer, have they been through this wrap before? There's value that comes with that. And so what I'm looking at is how do we just build on that and take advantage of, a market that is where others aren't prepared to. Like, that's exciting. There's growth that comes in a market like this. You guys can steal share within your own markets because you're the experts and you've been through this, and that value that you can provide to the consumer is it's undeniable in a tough time.
So you're leading me into the next question, which is the value we're providing. Set me right up. So we have a room full of leaders. These people some of them are managers, some of them are regionals, some of them are team leaders, some of them are just leading their clients and their community, into the buying and selling needs that they have. One thing, and I alluded to it before, was, you as a leader, what I found interesting, and I always find interesting about you, is you're no play when it comes to execution. Like, you want to execute, you have a vision, we got to get it done. But where you deviate from certain people is you're not a micromanager, and you allow leaders to lead, and you allow people to develop the answers that they need to. In many cases, it's asking the right questions and digging a little deeper to get them to come to the conclusions that they need to execute. So, clearly you have a lot of experience in leadership, and I'm just curious if there's any, gems that you can impart on the crowd in terms of your understanding of leadership and what you learned along the way in terms of that specifically.
Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna sit. You're very complimentary. It's very
just
fun.
Wait for the next
one. Never mind. Somebody next. I think for leadership, for me, what I've learned along the way is there's absolutely no ability to be successful totally on your own. And I think there's probably a lot of people nodding, going like, duh. But call me 15 years ago, and I would have told you that I got this. Like, there's like this arrogance and this sort of, you can do it. And I think leadership is not doing everything yourself. Leadership is finding the people around you that can do what you can't do. Leadership to me is creating followership because you realize your job is to truly make people better than they believe they can be, and challenging people to do more. I love when everybody on my team are the people that everybody else is trying to hire, right? Because I'm like, yes, like that is what it should be. How do I support people reaching? And so for me, it's about saying, okay, here's what I'm really good at. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I am not good at. Like, I joke that I have a degree in finance, but like I left it at the door. I don't know. I mean, I do look at it, but I have a CFO. That's who's going to do my finance stuff, right? I don't have the time. I have an expert to do that. What am I great at? I think years ago we used to think, I've got to spend time developing what I'm not good at to be better at it. No. Focus on what you're really good at and become exceptional at it, and layer in people to help you do what they do best, because then you're helping somebody else develop, you're helping somebody else shine, and you're actually elevating everyone around you. And that to me is, I don't know, that's what I focus on more. And as in the role that I sit in now, it's been a little hard for me to elevate past some of the stuff. Like, I do like getting in the weeds. I love I joke, I'm like, my communication style is be brief, be bright, be gone. You're like, no, it's not. You are talking a lot. But it is when it's like wholly focused on, I need to execute. If there is something we need to have done, we are gonna laser focus on it. But if we're gonna get in a room and we're gonna talk, we're gonna blue sky, we're gonna ideate, I'm gonna give you all the time I have in the world. I'm gonna go off on 45,000 different tangents, but I'm gonna make you think about where. I don't wanna force you there. I want your brain. So that's why I ask a lot of questions. The first thing I say when I take on a new role, or I have new employees, or I bring somebody on, is I say, I'm gonna ask you so many questions. And you're going to think it's because I don't trust you know what you're doing. I need to understand what you're doing. I need to understand how you think. You need to pretend I don't know a thing, and it's how I learn. And so I think it's that as a leader, it's constantly finding the people you can raise up around you, because it elevates all of you, and it's never stop learning.
You know, I don't know why you sparked this thought for me, but every so often you have an agent in your office who's at the office meeting and they just ask a million questions to the point that the people around them are annoyed. And you know, a lot of times I would get like somebody that would come up to me, or many people that come up to me and be like, oh, so and so. And the ironic part, the reason why I'm bringing it up is those are usually the people that I'm least worried about in the field. Like they're the ones that know what they're talking about, like they're asking a million questions, but it's because they're trying to educate themselves to feel more comfortable and go out there and perform. So it's interesting that you bring that up.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I would say as leading anyone, right? Whether it's leading self, whether it's leading a team, whether it's leading a company, try to challenge yourself to listen to different voices. Don't surround yourself with yes people, right? Because you're not gonna get where you need to go if you just have a bunch of people telling you you're right all the time. And it stings a little sometimes when you want to be right, but that's checking your ego at the door and really doing what's best for you, for your business, for whatever. Be open to the fact that somebody else may have an idea that can make you better, because you probably have one that can make them better. And I think
you're making me feel better. I have so many people around me that tell me how wrong I am.
See, it's growth. It's growth. Are they all at home right now?
Those people love me, fortunately. Thank God. They're young still.
Yeah.
But
yeah, wait till
give them time. So this is just a fun topic, but you know, Gen Blue is going to Atlanta this year in October. I'm a big fan of Gen Blue. I go to it every year. And you know, I'm just not like one of those people that drinks the Kool-Aid. Like for me, it's got to be genuine or it's not. And I've always felt that that's a conference that really is genuine. I learn a lot. I have a great time there. You know, it's always worth going to. So I'm curious. You know, you're obviously pulling the strings behind the scenes on a lot of these things. You and your team, obviously. I'm just curious, for you to share with the crowd here why they should come.
Look, I love what happens at the events and at Gen Blue is it's the networking and it's the collaboration. It's the investment in your learning. I think that there is no better place than to learn about what you don't know, right? You could be with this company 40 years and there's something you don't know. There's something out there that could bring you value to your business. There's a referral relationship you could create by sitting with somebody in a class and having a conversation. And there's a lot that you can gain by connecting virtually, and we're all learning how to do that. But the experience of investing that time, and it's an investment in yourself, and go for the learning, go for the classes, go for the connections. There's fun, of course, but like there is true, I think that's such a cool part of our industry. Like y'all get together and we can learn and we can idea share, and you're with people from, it also I think helps sometimes in a business where while we're all together in this room and we can all go to the office for whatever we want to go to the office for, a lot of us are running around in our cars or at our house or doing our business, and it's pretty cool to be in a room with or in a place with thousands of other people who are like in it with you. Like no matter, they may live in Alaska, they are like, we get you. You're my people kind of thing. And it's, but it's great to ideate. And so for me, we're a people business. Go be around like it's fun, it's educational. There's no better way to get sort of re-energized to see what you're part of. Like truly what you're part of. It is amazing, and it is bigger than you, and that's a tremendous way to do it and experience it.
The energy is the word that comes to mind for me. You spoke to, but one thing that you said about understanding what you're a part of is, so I've been doing this for a long time. I've been to, I don't remember how many Gen Blues I had went to at this point when we went to LA, but one of the things that I thought was really cool is they showed slides of the entire, like all the blockbusters that came out that year from Hollywood. And then they talked about all of you see oh, this is how well it did at the box office. And they added them all up, and then they showed how it compares to how much volume we do as a company, and it wasn't even close. And it just shows you we watch all this, we're mesmerized by these stars on the big screen, and yet as a company we do significantly more business.
Absolutely, yeah, we do.
Yeah, no question. So One thing I like to ask leaders anytime that I have the ability to interview them is, can you speak to us about what influences you? So whether it's a great podcast or an amazing book or something that you could point to that everybody in here could walk away from here and say, you know what, like I'm gonna learn about that as well.
So this is like the worst question to ask me because I don't listen to podcasts. I don't read business books.
Set you up perfectly here.
You really did. I saw it in the prep doc too. I was like, I'm just going to go with my gut here. I get influenced and inspired by the people I work with. It sounds so but it's true. I don't need. I have obviously the influences over life in my career and stuff, but on a daily basis for me, it's talking to my colleagues, it's being challenged, it's thinking outside the box and differently. I do have a podcast or two, but it's like American history crime or something. I'm like obsessed with why people kill. It's weird. It's like a weird obsession, but like who the true criminals are over time. Like that is fascinating stuff. Truly is. People are crazy. But I listen to, we know, you guys know, you're in this business, right? Y'all need a podcast. That's what we need. But I spend most of my downtime would be, like reading for pleasure. I like to get lost in the characters of a book and just totally disconnect. So I just gain inspiration by trying to be around really smart people every day that are thinking about and being open to it. And, so that's it. Sorry. I've got so I don't know. I think there's probably lots of good books out there, but I'm not the source.
So I'm gonna pivot from there.
Why that went so well?
Okay. Tee me up. So I think out of all the moments that I've seen you in action, one of the things that stood out to me was it wasn't a Gen Blue because there was one particular year that Realty, now is Anywhere, Realty did all of the conventions as one in Vegas. RGX, there you go. And there was 10,000 people there, probably plus. I mean, it might have been 13,000, I don't even know. But in Vegas, we filled the stadium that they have there. And what I thought was interesting was it was a big group of people to be standing in front of and giving a speech, and you nailed it. You absolutely nailed it, and no smoke, that's just being real, you did. And I think anybody who was there and saw all the speakers there probably walked away feeling the strongest about, passionate about what you had said. And it wasn't the topic, I think it was more in delivery. And many people in here, all of us on some level, have to sit in front of a cellar, let's call it, and deliver something with passion and conviction. And that's public speaking, whether we realize it or not. And so a lot of times what I get pressed on, especially in doing things like this, is the public speaking aspect. It's, I have so much to share, but I would never get up in front of a crowd and say that. Well, that's clearly a skill, and that's something that could be learned and you could acquire over time. And I think that you've certainly done a lot on that front. So I'm curious if there's anything that whether it's formal education, whether it's informal, what can you speak to on just a public speaking topic and how all these people can improve their skill set?
Yeah, I used to hate speaking in front of people, and it was like torture for me. And I would turn bright red. I still do. It's a thing, blonde. But practice. I think the fundamental thing is knowing your stuff. Don't go in trying to be somebody you're not. Don't go in trying to show up as, somebody else in your office who nails everything. Go in as you, because people want to see the authentic you. You can deliver nothing better than doing it in your own tone of voice, in your own style, and own the information. What I did to learn to get better, part of it comes with confidence and just doing it over and over and over again. But some that doesn't matter. That's never going to help, right? So I did get some formal coaching. I did one session. Well, I did two sessions, but in New York with actually an acting coach. She was amazing, but she taught me how to practice to the point where, first of all, to write things the way that I would remember them, right? Because everybody learns it differently. And she had this style where she would start this like information map, and you would like write in the center what the subject was that you want to talk about, and then like the 4 or 5 points. And then how do you connect them, and how do you bridge them, and like this whole like writing process. And then she would have me iterate and iterate and iterate and practice and record me. I still won't watch RGX. Like, my mom has seen it. She's like, you were up there for she wasn't there. She's watched it. She's like, you were up there for an hour. It's amazing. I'm like, I don't know. Because I cannot watch myself speak. People send me, I'm like, yep, nope, not interested. It's uncomfortable.
I give the best man speech at my brother's wedding, and I feel the exact same way. I'm like, it happened, but I'm done.
I don't know. So practice in front of the mirror, practice and record. And she got me to the point where I could do that speech throwing ball. Because I let somebody else, actually the wonderful David Marine, framed it out for me, but then I had to make it my own. I literally would drive in the car and I would say it. And then I'd go back and I'd iterate. And then I'd say it again until it was mine. And I didn't use teleprompters because I didn't want to get distracted. So it is, to me, it's owning the content and owning the message. Know what you want before you walk in to talk to anybody. Know what you want to get across, but importantly, try and know what's important to them. What do they want to hear, right? What is critical to that individual, and how well do you know it? What questions do you think they're going to ask you, right? What do you know about your competitors, right? If you're going to go in and pitch a listing, and you know that they're perhaps meeting with 3 other people, have your rebuttal, for lack of a better term, just rote, because it doesn't really need to change for every time. Practice it in your car. I record it and then I listen to it. I don't watch, but I'll listen, right? And just my daughter could give my speech at this point in time, because I did literally, I'm like, guys, you ready? They're like, here we go, but
you know what,
it's prepreration and it's knowledge.
Yeah, from a spectator perspective, like, I didn't know that. I didn't know that you practiced that. I mean, you may assume, but like, I had no idea how long you practiced it. What I found from a spectator perspective was you owned it. And it was, it was real, and it was exactly what you would want from a passion perspective. And so I guess the message to the crowd, and this is why I've asked this question, is very clearly, like, you're somebody who's doing this at a high level and you practice every single day to get it down.
Absolutely, because and it's funny, Ryan Schneider, my boss, will tell that, he's probably here somewhere, he's in the building, will say to me, man, you're really good when you prepare, like, you're amazing, and when you don't, you're okay. Right? And it's a fair statement, right? Because I could get through just about anything, and I know my subject matter, and I'm going to get through. But the difference when I take the time to prepare, and when I don't sit back and assume that I'm going to crush it, I'll do okay. And most people in the room would be like, that was great. But if I know I could have done a little bit better, then I'm not happy. And I know I'm not happy if I haven't taken the time. And I think it's very easy when we sit in a role, whatever the role is, when we've done something for a long time, we don't prepare as much. We just don't. And that's human nature, and that's okay. But think to yourself, man, if I had just prepped 5 minutes more for that. Ooh, I didn't answer that question quite right because I hadn't thought about X, Y, or Z. And I know we're busy and you guys run like this. But if you think about an extra hour of preparation, Sunday mornings, I get up and I look at my computer and I look at what's ahead for the week. And I say, I have a coach, so he's taught me to do this, because otherwise I just go and go and go and go and go. And then I get in a room and I'm like, oh, why am I here? And I take the first 10 minutes to remember why I'm in a room. You guys probably run that way too. But if you take the time, once a week even, to think about, what am I going into this week? What meetings do I have? And I get that's easier said than done, because you guys have the got a minute, like, hey, can you show me a house in 5 minutes? Sure, I got nothing else to do today, right? But for the meetings that for the listing presentations you're going into, for the manager meeting that you're having, for your team meeting that you're having, look at those on the calendar. What do I want to accomplish in there? What am I trying to get out of there? So therefore, what do I need to go in prepared to ask and to deliver? What does that person want from me? And take the extra hour a week, 15 minutes a day to be prepped. Work with your manager. Call them. What's going on in the marketplace that I might not know about right now? What might my customer hear that I haven't, because I'm so busy, I haven't thought to add into my talk track? and constantly prepare and learn. It's back to why you go to these things and why you're around people. You never stop preparing and learning.
There's two things that come to mind in what you just said. One, Marvin Williams, give you a shout out. Every single time, Marvin Williams and I have, every 2 weeks or so we meet, and we always like schedule it at the time that we finish that one, we schedule the next one. And what I'll say about Marvin is I meet with a lot of people. Marvin's the only person, or one of the only people, that come in with bullet points every single time we have a meeting. And some meetings are 5 minutes long, some meetings are 25 minutes long, but we get what he needs done at every single meeting because he comes in with bullet points. And that prep is everything when you're dealing with a coach or you're dealing with a manager who's running around doing a million things. I strongly encourage you guys to think along those lines because it's going to be more helpful for you. The other thing is how long have you spent actually sitting down and looking at your listing presentation and recording yourself? I could tell you when we did Listing Concierge as a company, sometimes people, I think agents think that we just throw stuff out. Like, because there's glitches and there's stuff that comes up like naturally, like we're working through it, we're a big company, I know you know. But one of the things that we were required to do, every single manager had to go, and it was like a 2 or 3 day meeting, and we had to literally just practice the dialogues related to Listing Concierge, because how can you go out and speak to it to your client if we as a manager can't even teach it to you? And it had to just roll off of our tongues. And we sat there and they recorded us. They did everything possible to prep us to do that 10-minute presentation, because if we didn't know how to do it, we weren't gonna be effective at teaching it to you. How many of you have done the exact same thing? Sat down and recorded yourself doing a listing presentation? Be surprised at how helpful it is.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable, but it's so it's not getting the listing. So you want to. So I'd love questions.
Yeah, that's what I was going to do. We're obviously we have some time. Please, I'm going to run around the room like an idiot.
I would just like to say I started. I've been a realtor for over 40 years. I started with Jean Bergdorf, and I have to say what you were saying, I smiled the whole time, because these were principles going back 40 years that she encouraged, and that's how she was outstanding in the business, and I think you are too. Thank you. Had the Jean Bergdorf experience, and it was wonderful, but I think you're great.
Thank you.
I think what you said was wonderful.
That's an awesome first question.
Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot. That is a legacy right there. So thank you. That means a lot.
Questions? Please. Stacy.
Stacy doesn't need. No, you do. I can't hear you.
So you talked about something that I thought was really important when you talked about banking.
Mm-hmm.
If you've had to go into a bank in the recent past, you have to make an appointment online. You then have to show up for your appointment, and you have a specific 15 or 20-minute time slot. When we look at our aging population, that is very difficult for them to manage and get the services that they need. So I think it's as important as it is for us to be forward-thinking in our lane of what we need for millennial buyers, et cetera. We also need to keep the focus also on the people who aren't going to be in that lane. How do you see that change coming down the pike?
Yeah, it's a very good point. It's why I said I think we have to address consumers and our customers at every stage that they are at, anywhere in that journey, right? And so I think I know there's a lot of talk about that up and coming generation, how we serve them and how they do business. I believe that there is a need to think about, you think about next avail, some of these things that we're creating, and we're thinking about service people wherever they are, right? And I think it's about not forcing anybody to have to go somewhere to get something, but rather how do we bring service to, if that's what they want or what they need. And I don't think that there is, I think there's a tremendous population, movement as well in the population that is going to be downsizing and moving out of state and needing services in a different way. And, we're going through it with my father-in-law right now, and I'm thinking he couldn't fathom getting through the transaction right now I wouldn't even know where to go to get the stuff to help him get through the right? Like there's those things we have to think about too, and we do. How do we make the document process easier for folks, whether it's uploading? I mean, look, I think it's great for me that I could just drag and drop my stuff to GRA, right? That was amazing. Like, this is the coolest process ever, right? Ed would be like, where's the key to the safe deposit box to go get the stuff, right? And it's true. And so for me, it's not, we talk a lot about the other. I don't want it to be that we know how to service a lot of the other consumer within our space. We've been doing it a long time. We know how to meet people where they are. I know that if I need to get that paperwork to an office to get done, to go sit with them more, I can, right? But over time, that's going to change, and that next generation isn't going to need to do it that way. So it's constantly iterating. It's not forgetting about, and it's not doing away with. It's why I talk about building while serving is how I think about it. I haven't thought much about how the banks are going to handle all of that, to be quite honest. But there's lots of different ways we have to think about serving the consumer and where they change, whether it be from a cultural and diversity perspective with how we do loans, how we underwrite things, how we think about that, how we reach a aging population or a younger population, a fully digitized population. All of those things have to go into what we're thinking about and bringing to bear. So it's complex, but you can't not serve one and just serve the other, right? We serve all customers, and we have to be able to do that. And right now, we're doing research on what that next generation does, but we still need to focus on today for sure. Absolutely, yeah.
Please raise your hand if you have questions too. I'll come around.
I've recently just been made a mentor, a positive female professional mentor to a 10-year-old girl.
Oh, I love that.
I was scared to death. At that age, what's the words that you would give to a 10-year-old that isn't really, socialized yet with the meanness that comes along with teenage years, and keep them on a guided path to whatever profession?
Wow. Well, I have a 12-year-old, so I'm still learning. No, and I say that with all sincerity because, we've got lots of people in here that are parents of children that have gone through every stage that I'm sure could give exceptionally sound advice because I am learning through it. I spend a lot of time with Sammy trying to just encourage her to be her. I encourage her to lead with kindness. Fortunately or unfortunately, she sees me. And I mean that truly because there is pressure that comes with having a very successful mother, right? And I had a talk with her when I was on vacation. I took her with me to this event, and we spent a couple days. And she said, "Oh my God, if one more person gets on the elevator and tells me you're great." I'm like, I said, "They've been at the bar, honey. It's it's fine." And she was funny because anyway. I said, "How does that make you feel?" And she goes, "Proud and scared." And that's a weight, right? So what I would encourage you to do with this young woman, and we talk about Mean Girls, and we talk about, I listen a lot. I try and bring, and I don't know if you're in that position, but I have her friends over all the time. I get them in the car, because man, do I hear everything in the car. And I'm like, what? Like, Mimi, tell me, right? Because her friends, I have sleepovers all the time because I want them at my house, right? And then, I try not to push. I try to listen. But I do encourage her that she can be whatever she wants, even if that means nothing, right? Like, not really, because that's not going to fly. But, it's... But I don't know. I think you just try and encourage them to learn, to be themselves, to not judge, And I try. She does have she does say to... I said, why didn't you tell me that? She goes, because you're going to make it a life lesson. And I said, well, what do you mean? She goes, everything doesn't have to be a life lesson. So, but it's true, right? Because you're laughing, your mom, right? So because I find, oh my God, I'm going to let this moment slip, and I'm not going to educate her on like why that. And then she said, can you sometimes just listen? And I said, okay, that's really hard, but yes. And we actually have a phrase now. So she'll say to me, she'd kill me, but don't anybody post this where she's only on Instagram and it's private, so nobody can find her. But she said, Mommy, when I want to talk to you and you just listen, because I think that's the most important thing. Be a sounding board, don't judge, and ask for when she wants her feedback, when she wants the guidance, because sometimes it's just that. And I'll say, what do you need? Do you need me to? No, Mommy, just listen. Okay. And then I find she'll come around a little bit later, usually at bedtime. Always at bedtime. But I encourage her. I put there's a great book for girls right between 10 and probably 13 years old, maybe a little bit younger. She read it. I brought it for her, called The Confidence Code for Girls. There's a book for women called The Confidence Code. That's all. Gonna get this out of you. I forgot. See, I do read. But it's called The Confidence Code for Girls, and it's a really good message for them about how to develop that internal. We talk about how likes are bullshit on social media. Excuse my expression, excuse my language, you can delete that, but we don't live our lives for likes. We just don't. You're gonna be disappointed, and you're gonna do the wrong things. We talk about how fake social media is. We talk about the curated lives that are out there. So sorry, I preach. It scares me to death. I don't have the answers. If anybody else does, call me. I'll take the advice because I need it. And it's tough. But it's also important one more thing. Not everybody's our friend, but we're kind to everybody. Because she'll say to me like, well, my friend did. I'm like, are they your friend? Like, a friend should make you feel this way. They're your classmate. They're your, and we're kind and we're accepting, but we also don't ever put ourselves in a position where somebody makes us feel bad, because that's not a friend. I execute on that one pretty aggressively. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, Sue.
Hi, where are you? Hi. Oh, Amy, hi.
I also want to echo what Eileen said. I started 17 years ago in the business with Jean Bergdorf, and she was always about the golden rule. And I feel like you're very much like that too, and it's really an honor to always hear you speak, and you've been instrumental in my career.
Thank you.
So thank you for that. And as a mother of a 20 and 23-year-old, I will tell you it does get better. It gets worse before it gets better. But
Great.
It's really fulfilling when they're at an age when they can start figuring things out and not have to call you all the time for every single thing. So my daughter broke her wrist on Sunday. On Mother's Day, she called me at 8:45 in the morning. And we were going away for 36 hours to a spa. And she calls me at 8:45, and I said, hey, she's 20. And I said, it's really early for you to be calling me to wish me Happy Mother's Day. Is everything okay? She's like, I'm in the hospital. I'm fine. I broke my wrist. Got like this whole... Anyway, so she's finished with school at Maryland today, and I said, I'll come pick you up, and she's like, no, that's okay, I'll let Carly to come down and get me, and Carly is, my older daughter who's 23, and at first I felt kind of like insulted. I was telling Tim, like, she doesn't want her mother to come down? He's like, you should be proud. Tavia's like, her cool older sister is coming down to pick her up from the sorority house, and help her pack up and drive her car back to New Jersey, so long story long, yes, it gets better. So just bringing it back a minute to the brokerage side, since you do have that 30,000-foot view of all the other brands that you oversee, do you see like other opportunities when you're at meetings? You're like, wow, shit, that'd be great for Coldwell Banker, or is there any like kind of? I mean, I know we're all distinctive in our own way, but is there any kind of kind of like best practices, not always have to be reinventing the wheel, that you see coming down the pike for Coldwell Banker?
Yeah, great question, and thank you. It's going to be weird because I'm going to go to college with my daughter, so I'll totally be driving her home. But no, that's amazing, and congratulations. I'm a big believer in best practices and not paying tuition twice, right? We are unique. Every one of our brands is super unique, and I get to see that experience-wise, culture-wise. You know, it's like every office is a little different, every brand. So there is absolute power in the uniqueness of the brand, in the marketing, the voice to the customer, who we're like totally. But we're also all in the same business. And so there are absolutely things that I see that I then bring back to my leaders and say, hey, you know, this is working really well over there. Have we thought about that? Have we thought about how we can make that work here, right? Make it CBR or make it ERA or make it whatever. But like, that's part of the value of being part of this company, is that we see that and we can learn from each other and leverage to make us all better. Because ultimately, as anywhere, we're all better when we're better together, right? And so I think there are some things that I'm like, you know, kind of, no, that doesn't, you know, whatever, not really. But I think for the most part, we really strive to do that. That was not the case 6, 7, 8 years ago. I came here 8 years ago, and we were just on the cusp of kind of de-siloing some of the, you know, the brands, and everything was like, we're doing it 6 times, we're doing it 6 times, we're doing it 6 times. And there's just no efficiency in that. There's no value in me. I can invest in the uniqueness of each brand significantly more if I am leveraging best practices where that brand differentiation doesn't matter, right? So there's 2 things in that, Amy. There's the, where do I see best practices in product and service and value and tech and communication and marketing that I can bring forth and say, hey, why don't we try this here? That'll be great. I get Lindsay on the phone and she figures it out. Or most of the time it's like, Lindsay, that's amazing. Can we take that over here? But there's also the thing that says, what am I doing that I replicate over 6 brands, and I'm trying to now do 6 different ways that make no difference to my customer, to my agents, that I can do one time, save a ton of money and resources and human capital, and reinvest that in what matters for all of you every single day. And that's what I focus on a lot. So yes and yes, right? Yes.
Hey, Sue.
Hi.
Just great job overall. I'm super excited to see all the great things that you will do. And I could say with all the things that you've done in the past, it's just been absolutely amazing. And I appreciate you for everything. Just a question. What advice would you give your younger self, professionally and personally?
You would think I'd be asked that a lot and I would have an easy answer for it. I think personally, I don't know, because I kind of like where I ended up, right? So it's hard to look back and say I would have told myself to do something different. Or I think the advice would have been like, it's all going to be okay. You know, like, it's going to be okay. One way or the other, it'll be okay. And so don't fall off a cliff over things but that's hard. You need the perspective and you need the wisdom that comes with time, and you need to learn those lessons. Just like our young ones will learn some of the tough lessons that we don't want them to. It will help them end up where they need to be. Professionally, I think I would have listened more earlier, right? I really felt the need when I was much younger, I felt I had to be right, and I'd get very defensive about that, and it would come from this, like, if I don't know the answer, I'm gonna just, yes I do. And like that really closed me off from some learning, and I could have probably accelerated things a little bit earlier, and the leveraging of a team, you know, for me, that would have been it. And you know, there's a lot to learn from people around you, and don't be closed off to that, and I learned that later, I think. Maybe not, but I did. So I think that's what I would say. But it would also be I did take the risk, but take the risk. Take the risk. Like, you know, man, dream big. I didn't dream this. Like, I was like, I'm just going to go do this, and maybe I'll be a manager, and and it just happened. God, I wonder what could have happened if I had actually set a dream a lot earlier that I was executing towards, but I didn't. So.
Thank you.
So clearly I haven't learned time management.
I mean, did I miss my last meeting?
No, you guys are great. But
Look at Robbie
we're
said,
gonna,
yeah,
I'm gonna open it up to one last question and then we'll be done. If anybody has something that's like, you got one back there?
Yeah,
Ron?
taking it back to real estate.
Okay, please.
Away from the personal, but thank you. I am a girl mommy, so I get it.
Yeah.
And
Sorry,
I
brother.
have a phenomenal 24-year-old who learned all these lessons really early. Took herself off of Instagram, has fabulous women friends. It's all great. But my question is about our technology.
Yep.
And I would say in my dozens of years with Coldwell Banker or under the auspices, I don't remember somebody, a buyer, contacting me because of our website or found us that way. Today, all of our inquiries, and I have clients sending me things from Redfin and from Zillow. And I'm concerned about the options and with Realtor.com on make an appointment to see a house at 3 o'clock with somebody. And we're not educating the public that that may not be in your best interest. And how are we competing with that? What are your plans in the future?
So, we do try and educate the public, and we do try and work through the best way in which to promote properties and, kind of on your listings, who's the agent, we do that, but it's a mass
Or just that
population,
when somebody goes to
right?
Zillow, they don't understand they're
They don't.
getting somebody. It doesn't have to be the listing.
They don't, and yeah, and I think in reality, trying to combat that is partially as an industry, we lost control of it when we lost control of some of our data. I mean, that's just the reality. So what we are doing is looking at how we do capture. When we talk about getting closer to the consumer, right? And I have a lot of people go, well, that's my job, right? It is your job. I'm not talking about getting in between you and the consumer. I'm talking about how do I capture more of those consumers and get them to you, right? And so we've been doing the last part. We have 2 programs that were underway. We're doing a lot of consumer research to find out what happens to that consumer before they affiliate. One of the things that we know for sure is that by affiliate I mean connect with an agent. Consumers do not want to be rushed into that process, right? Consumers will give you the fake email, the fake phone number. Half the time they connect with somebody on Zillow because they actually are not concerned about who they're going to connect with. How do we unlock a % of that to build the trust with the consumer, to provide the insight and the guidance so that when they do select, they are coming to you, right? There's a lot of research that we're doing on it, and candidly, research that's not been done before into the behavioral science behind how consumers. I mean, it's it's pretty cool stuff, and it feels really intuitive. But cracking that code, and look, somebody will say you're not going to out Zillow. I don't need to. I need to get a portion. So how we feed that into our platforms, our systems, our websites, and our lead generation opportunities, what we're spending a lot of time focusing on and understanding. We have a new chief product officer who had spent time at Google, and I mean, he's brilliant. We've not invested in that before in the company, to be quite honest. And then we have our head of enterprise marketing who's doing a lot of the research on the consumer side. And that when we talk about that, it's because if we don't look, we need to understand the consumer, whether it's, the millennial coming up or whether it's, my grandmother who's looking to buy a house that's going to work. Like, how do they work? What do they want? And how do we connect them with the right people? And so that's what we're spending a lot of time. And then how does that build into the tech? It's not overnight. And it's not a simple one and done fix. It's very complex. Full transparency, right? But we do believe we are the best suited within the industry along the entire continuum of the transaction as well to reach that consumer when you think about everything we have. Yeah, without question.
Just how to get that.
It's tough, but it is where we're focusing. When we came out last year and said that we're, this focus on getting closer to the consumer, it's growing our existing business, and it's thinking about how we capture more of that up here. You're welcome.
On behalf of everybody here, I just want to thank you. I want to thank you guys for joining us. I just got to point out, you spent an hour and a half with us today, and I know your time is very valuable. Sincerely appreciate you opening up. You're welcome to join us for lunch if you have time. Otherwise, please, everybody grab one.